All right, let's talk Kansas City Chiefs. Look, football is getting closer and closer to returning. We're just a few short weeks away from training camp, and now we're starting to see some after-action reviews about some new Kansas City Chiefs, some new additions, rookies, free agents across the board, and overall plans that Chiefs have. And there's one new addition in particular that the Chiefs have been utilizing in a very specific way. Kansas City clearly believes they have a hidden gem here. We'll get to that report in just 1 second. But first, I'm Nick. That is Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, the Kansas City Chiefs started out their NFL draft, the 2025 NFL draft, with a bang, selecting, of course, offensive tackle Josh Simmons with the first-round selection. Of course, he looks like a great star. He's received a lot of great praise. But it's a seventh-round selection, Bashard Smith out of SMU, that the Kansas City Chiefs are getting a lot of under-the-radar hype for. And ESPN recently did some digging with their insiders to evaluate which team, and specifically the Chiefs here, have found a guy that's sneaking up as a key playmaker. And if you listen to the report, it is clearly obvious the Chiefs believe they have something special in Bashard Smith and how they're planning on using him. Let's pull up the article here. Then we'll get into some very interesting data on the other side. From the report, judging from how he was utilized in offseason practices, the Chiefs have plans for Smith, a seventh-round draft pick out of SMU. Like I said, Smith was a wide receiver in college before moving to running back for his final season, and the Chiefs showcased his versatility by getting the ball out of the backfield from the slot, and split out wide, all three of those options. Smith ran a 4.39 40 at the combine, so he will fit in with a group of other fast skill players, including, of course, Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, and Elijah Mitchell. So what's interesting with Bashard Smith is obviously when he was selected, a lot of people were like, okay, this is the Clyde Edwards-Helaire replacement. That didn't work out for them. They're trying to go a different direction, kind of fill that role in for their offense. And that isn't necessarily incorrect, but I think it's a lot more than that. I think the Chiefs honestly feel like, and I think Andy Reid honestly feels like, they got a steal here in the seventh round, not because they got a guy to be a third-round back that can catch the ball out of the backfield. They have an actual dynamic weapon, because you talk about a guy who played wide receiver, who transferred to running back during his collegiate career and is now going to the NFL as just an overall weapon. I think it reminds me personally of former Dallas Cowboy, current Tennessee Titan, Tony Pollard, who did a lot of great things for the Dallas Cowboys. And having a weapon like Tony Pollard really accelerated the Cowboys offense. In fact, let's go and open up our first chart here to highlight what I'm talking about. And again, this is just the fact that a weapon, a running back / wide receiver hybrid who can do it all, what he can bring to an offense. So this is the points per game the Cowboys had from 2017, 18, 19, 20, and 2021. You can see where they are in 2017 and 2018, about 21, 22 points per game, nothing special. They draft Tony Pollard after the 2018 season, and then you see, bang, big spike in 19, 20, 21, massive points per game boost. Having a big-time playmaker, just a chess piece you can move all around the offense, is what I think has been missing from this Chiefs offense over the past couple seasons. Everyone wonders, well, are they going to get their big play receiver? Are they going to replicate Tyreek Hill? Can Xavier Worthy be that guy? I think that's not really the issue. I think the issue is they don't have that dynamic piece they can do all kinds of funky things with. I think that's what Tyreek Hill, in a lot of ways, gave the Kansas City offense, not just some over-the-top vertical threat. He gave them a lot of positional versatility and flexibility and playmaking all over the field. And I think a guy like Bashard Smith, very similar to Tony Pollard, can provide that for the Dallas Cowboys. And let's not forget, Andy Reid, in his first head coaching experience, had a player with this same skill set, another late round selection or a mid to late round selection, and that was running back Brian Westbrook. And interestingly enough, the way Pollard had a good increase for the Cowboys points per game just a few short years ago, Westbrook for Andy Reid in Philly had a similar effect. Let's pull up the chart there to highlight what I'm talking about. Again, this is the Brian Westbrook effect when Andy Reid was a head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going back 25 years ago. Wow, well, this is crazy. But you can see in 2000, 2001, right around 21 points per game. Okay, that's where they're sitting. They draft Brian Westbrook, and what do you happen? Bang, right away, 2022, massive points per game boost, dips a little bit below 25, but then stays there in 2003 and 2004. You can see the new baseline. So we're seeing just the addition of a big-time playmaker, a chess piece, a guy who you can do all kind of funky things with in Brian Westbrook. It accelerated the Philadelphia Eagles offense. It accelerated their quarterback Donovan McNabb's growth, and it gave Andy Reid, most importantly, another offensive playmaker he could play with and utilize over the course of a long season in postseason as well. Whether you're looking for a Tony Pollard comp, whether you're looking for a Brian Westbrook comp, or whether you think Smith falls into a completely different bucket altogether, it's very clear, very obvious with how the Chiefs are using Smith and how they plan to use him going forward. They believe they have a massive steal, a hidden gem, whatever you want to call it, a big-time playmaker that day one will be a significant addition to this Chiefs offense. I'm not saying he's going to start, but you're talking about a guy that's going to get a lot of snaps, a lot of targets, a lot of involvement. I think the Chiefs got themselves a great playmaker here that's going to help them day one. And don't be surprised when you see a points per game boost from Kansas City this upcoming fall, because you're going to see, whether you call it the Tony Pollard effect or Brian Westbrook effect, I think this year we'll call it the Bashard Smith effect, because that's the kind of value he can provide to this Chiefs offense. All right, Miles, I know you've got a few thoughts on this, but first, Kansas City fans, in the comment section below, obviously we're talking playmakers, we're talking guys who can do a lot of different things. So I'm going to ask you guys now, who is the most versatile player in Chiefs history? This can go a lot of different directions, right? There's a lot of different ways you can go with this, but this could go, offense, defense, special teams. Give us the most versatile guy, the guy who could do everything, was a great playmaker, jack of all trades in Kansas City Chiefs history. Make sure you put them in the comment section below. And while you're down there, make sure you sign up for our free, 100% free weekly newsletter. We got a lot of great content. We actually highlight the best comments of the week in there. So if you have a great comment, you may find it in the newsletter. Make sure you subscribe. Again, it's on the Substack platform. There's a link below, 100% free. Check it out. But Mize, enough from me. Over to you. What are your thoughts on this latest news involving Kansas City?
Yeah, Nick, I think this guy is really interesting. And, he's a great factor for this offense. I think he's kind of like a missing piece, so to speak, in the fact that when I see guys like this, when I think of guys like this, when I think of guys like Pollard, when I think of guys like Westbrook, two more that come to a guy like Cordell Patterson, to me, guys that fit that mold, they really cause confusion when they're out on the field. And I think that's a big case here. It's like you said, they don't need the next Tyreek Hill. They don't need that. They just need a guy that they can plug in there and is an X factor. Well, you got a guy back there. Maybe they hand him off the ball. Maybe he's running it. Maybe he comes out of the backfield on a wheel route and catches a pass. This is a guy that can do all kinds of stuff. And when a defense has a player on the field that they can't 100% pinpoint, they can't, mark, hey, we know exactly what this guy is going to be doing, it makes things infinitely more difficult. And a la your graphs, it makes the offense score more points. I think of this, and there's many different ways I see this over the last couple of years. When you have tight ends that are more wide receiver-esque, they're big guys, but still, you see the Brock Bowers of the world. He's very receiver-esque. He's quick. He has great route running. He has the great ability to catch the football. Those are guys that help teams elevate their points per game, elevate their scoring overall, just because when you have someone on the field that's saying, hey, this is a tight end, we know that he's probably going to block or run a very limited amount of routes when they're on the field. We can handle that. When you have a guy has expanded route tree, expanded ability to be a big play threat in any sort of fashion, it muddles the picture for the defense. So I think that's exactly what a guy, to me, like Bashard Smith does. He comes out onto the field and it muddles the picture for the defense. They do not know exactly what they're going to get when he's out there, where he's going to go. Does he check out wide as wide receiver? Is he come back in as running back? They don't know. This guy makes the picture confusing. I think this is going to be a really good factor for the Chiefs. Like you said, probably not going to be starting every game, but I think he's going to have a significant amount of snaps, in the fact that he is that one guy they can put on the field with all of their other weapons to really help make people second guess themselves and slow the defenses down just a tick.
Yeah, and people forget, right? Because we look at the Kansas City Chiefs offense really last season and really the year before, when they finished middle of the pack in scoring, and people before their 2023 title run, people wondering what was wrong with the Kansas City Chiefs. We saw what happened, I think, on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, I forget, at home against the Raiders, losing that game, and just an ugly, just a terrible offensive showing. Finished 11-6, and people are like, what is wrong with Kansas City? But in 2022, they led the NFL in scoring. So they're only a few years removed from being the best offense in football. A lot of the key pieces are still there. They've made the improvements on the offensive line. I think Simmons is a steal. We've talked about it a lot, of course, this offseason. I think they still have some issues. We're waiting to see how the young guys develop at the wide receiver position. Kelsey is getting older. You have all those factors coming into play here. But I think the addition of Bashard Smith here is just sort of this X factor. I hate to use this term because it's kind of a cliche. People throw it around just to sound smart, but he is going to be a force multiplier for this offense. He's going to allow a bunch of other players to do more things, to get more creative. He can be a quick outlet who can force teams to not just drop into deep coverages to cover Xavier Worthy. He can be a guy if teams want to play man-on-man, who can beat linebackers and coverage very easily out of the backfield. He's also a guy in personnel groups. If the Chiefs huddle up with 11 personnel, one running back, it's Smith, tight ends Kelsey, you have 3 wide receivers. If you're a defense, you don't know what's going to happen. They could line up with 5 wide, the Chiefs could, or they could line up in a standard 11 personnel and run it right at you with Smith as a tailback, right? You don't know what's coming your way with Bashard Smith having an integrated role in this offense. And I think having that X factor, having that extra little help is all the Chiefs need to return to being a top 5, top 3 scoring offense. Because I think they got, not by choice, just by reality with some injuries and performance, a little predictable. And I think that really reared its ugly head in the Super Bowl. The Philadelphia Eagles, watching the game and just the feeling, they knew what was coming, they knew what to expect, they knew how to prepare for it. In order for the Chiefs to win that game, they would have to play perfectly. They didn't get it done, obviously. I think Smith can make things a lot easier. I think improved offensive tackle play, Simmons, we talked about him a lot, of course, will make things easier as well. And just those 2 players by themselves, again, we're not talking huge name guys. We're not talking spending $100 million, but I really think these 2 guys, what they will bring to this Kansas City offense is an easier, simpler picture internally, and throw a lot of wrenches, a lot of question marks on the defensive side, the opposition that Kansas City will have to face. And in return, we'll see the Kansas City offense. It'll be easier for them. It'll be simpler. It'll feel a lot closer to 2022, 2021 than has been the last couple of years. And if that happens, watch out NFL, because this Chiefs team with this kind of firepower added back into the offensive equation, they're once again the team to beat in the AFC.